everyone, welcome back to the Independent Thinking Online Children's Book Festival. And I keep calling it an extravaganza because that's what it is. I get to meet in this format and greet and listen to amazing children's authors with a whole variety of different sorts of books. We've been recording quite a few in the build up to this. These ones are now, we're interviewing live with people in the Zoom room with us. It's such a privilege to meet so many authors, all of them sort of coming to us via the Sue Atkins Book Club. And my thanks to Sue Atkins for sort of supporting this and helping this and allowing me to help get these authors out there with so many different messages, so many important messages, books for little children, books for bigger children, books about children, books for children, all as well with some sort of message going on underneath as well. There's always a story within the story. And I'm delighted now to introduce live from sunny Manchester, Leanne Brown and her lovely book, Daniel's Dreams, Monster Mountain. So Leanne, welcome. Good to meet you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into writing, what you do, where you're from, what you do, how it all sort of comes together.
So my journey starts when I was a little girl. I always wanted to be a teacher. I remember having my teddies lined up and doing a register with them. And so that was where I wanted to be as a career. That's what I worked for, went to school, college, university. And I ended up in a secondary school in Rochdale teaching English. Loved it for many, many years. And I just got to a point in my life where I just didn't feel like I was doing much good. You know, children would leave my classroom and they would have learnt something, but was I really making a difference to children's lives? So I changed my career path and I went into special educational needs teaching, teaching children with social, emotional and mental health problems. And I felt like, you know, it was something that I really, really wanted to do. And it really did change my perspective on education, you know, how you can make a difference to children's lives beyond data and exams. And I loved it. I loved teaching in the special educational needs setting, you know, making a difference with children. But I just really found that children struggled so much with mental health in terms of understanding it and knowing what to do if they suffer with it and identifying what it is. So I just thought that I would use my skills from teaching English and teaching special educational needs to write some chapter books, particularly chapter books, because I found that there was a gap in the market for chapter books for mental health for children. There's so many picture books out there that deal with emotions and mental well-being, but chapter books seem to be a bit of a no-go area. There doesn't seem to be too much out there. So I just thought, I had an idea basically. It was last year during lockdown, and I just kind of thought to myself, I'll give it a go. So I'll write something for children to help them understand mental health, to help them recognise that it's okay to not be okay, and to help them deal with it, learn techniques, learn coping strategies, and know that they're not on their own. So I thought about it, and I knew I wanted it to be a series of books because I didn't want one book to be too intensive of mental health. So I came up with the idea of Daniel's Dreams, which is about a little boy who goes into his dreams at night time. He struggles a little bit with life. He's very shy. He doesn't really know how to deal with things in everyday life. And he goes into his dreams, and when he goes into his dreams, he gets to go on adventures, and he's a brave, courageous boy with confidence. And one particular night, he finds a monster in his bedroom who takes into this magical place called Monster Mountain. But when Daniel gets there, he realises that absolutely everything there is different, it's unique. And
it's slimy.
Go on.
There's slime, there's all sorts, and colours as well, isn't there? There's all sorts of different things going on in that world.
Yeah, it's a celebration that you can be whoever you want to be, and you can be unique, and you can be any shape, size, colour, anything, and you still matter. So when he arrives in Monster Mountain, he recognises all of these things as being very different, and he also recognises that the monsters aren't necessarily all coping with life. And he comes across one particular monster called Shelley, who's got real anxiety. She doesn't know how to deal with it. She doesn't know how to cope. And he teaches her different ways to deal with her anxieties. He is a supportive friend. He gives her some breathing strategies. And by the end, you like to hope that she would carry that through her life in Monster Mountain. And the idea of the rest of the series, that we will see Daniel go back to Monster Mountain and deal with another particular type of well-being or emotion. So book 2 is written, and that focuses on sadness and depression and how you can deal with that. And it's just really, it was just really an idea that I wanted children to read a book, A, enjoy the story, but B, also recognise that they might feel like that sometimes. So when they're reading it, do they feel like one of the monsters feels? And if they do, there's some great coping strategies in there for them. There's grounding exercises, and there's also ways to breathe, like breathing techniques. And I know already so many parents have contacted me to say, oh, my child was using your breathing techniques last night to go to sleep. And I just think, even if that child isn't suffering with anxiety, isn't it brilliant that they're learning breathing techniques at such a young age, when mental health in children is just reaching epidemic levels? I just think what a great skill to take through life, because, you know, learning to be in the moment and mindful and breathing techniques is just a skill that's going to carry them through life really, really well. So that is really my story behind writing. You know, I wanted to make a difference to children. I saw the gap in the market and thought, what do children of around 6 to 10 read if they're not reading picture books anymore and there's nothing there to help them with mental health? What are they reading? So that was really my story behind writing. As an English teacher, I love to read. I love reading with my daughter. We read so many different books. And I just wanted to make a difference to someone, even if it was just one person. But, you know, luckily for me, they've been well received. Lots of people have, you know, contacted me to say that it's helped their children. I was particularly pleased with one child who actually used Daniel's Dream as their World Book Day book. And created, I think they had to create a scene, and he used the monsters, so that was lovely.
It's lovely when books take on that life of their own in a way that you don't expect. It makes you feel, especially when your ambition has been for that book to have an impact, to make a difference, as you say. It's great when you see that it does in ways that you didn't expect.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I don't claim to be J.K. Rowling or have that kind of stature or anything like that, but if my book can help one child, 2 children, then I'm achieving what I wanted to achieve. So, you know, that just kind of makes me want to carry on. It makes me want to write more books. The book's won 5 awards so far. I've also created resources for schools in terms of like a well-being pack, so that they can do exercises in class with the actual book. So yeah, it's just been a wonderful journey of, you know, helping children and realizing that, you know, so many of them do really, really need our help at the moment. And, you know, teachers are so swamped with everything to do with COVID and teaching online, or, you know, glass bubbles isolating, that I just think, you know, if someone else can shout out and help teachers out, then that's a great thing.
Absolutely, yeah. And do you find that the adults reading the book that they're doing the exercises as well? It's benefiting them, even though they're reading it to the children and with the children?
Yeah, I've had a few comments about where the parents have said, oh, I've used your exercises when I've been at work or when I've been trying to sleep. I remember one adult telling me that they read the book themselves and they've never read a full book altogether, but they sat and read the whole book, and now they use the breathing exercises all the time. So, you know, that's great in itself, because that's helping, you know, an adult with their mental health and being able to, you know, use the coping strategies, the breathing. And I think with this book, I didn't want it to be too push it in your face, like you've got to do this, or if you don't do this then your mental health will suffer. I wanted it to be a story that children could relate to, and that they could, you know, read and enjoy it as a story, and just it subtly be in there that,
I was about to say, it is very subtle, the way that the lines, the little sentences, the little poems that the chants, the recitations that they come up with, it's not in your face, this is about well-being, do this.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what I wanted. I didn't want to be preachy, here it is, this is what you've got to do.
Yeah.
I wanted children to read it and think, oh, you know, sometimes that's how I feel. And
beautifully illustrated as well. I mean, it's just such bright colours. Again, it's not a, while you're covering some, you know, meaty topics.
Yeah, yeah, the illustrations are absolutely brilliant. You know, I couldn't have imagined them any better, really, and the characters are designed around mental health. So I really thought about how I wanted the characters. So the characters, in terms of how they look, their colours, so I researched the colours behind mental health. So for example, if you look at that particular character at the back, he suffers with anger management. Yeah. So I wanted him to be red, and I wanted him to be spiky. And when you look at Shelley, she looks very like she's shaking a lot. Yeah. So the illustrations have really, I think, really brought the book to life, and, you know, have really taken on what I wanted to achieve. And the illustrator, Yoga, she just really did just take on everything that I'd asked for, really. Yeah. So they are absolutely brilliant. The kids love them. When I speak to kids in schools, they absolutely love the illustrations and the brightness of them.
You're going to read us a little bit in a minute, but just the mountain bit, I was struck by that. Again, it was only subtle. There's a line or a couple of lines when they refer to the mountain, the idea that a mountain is, when you're at the top of the mountain, it's easier to look back at what you've achieved, as opposed to this idea that it's this thing that dominates you and that you can never achieve. That the mountain becomes, and it's very subtle, but this metaphor for overcoming obstacles, whatever that might be, whether that's physical or mental.
Yeah, I really wanted to achieve exactly what you've just said. I wanted this idea that they overcame something. So when you're at the bottom of the mountain, looking up, you think that is a long journey and that is going to be really hard. But once they're at the top of the mountain and they can see everything around them, and they can see the difference, they can see the journey they've been on, and they've reached the top, then, you know, it's a totally different perspective. So down at the bottom, they might be feeling a little bit, you know, sad and a bit alone, but at the top, it's a totally different view up there. And that is what I wanted to achieve. That was the metaphor of what I wanted.
The idea as well of choice. Sometimes I can be happy, sometimes I can be sad. Doesn't mean I'm good, doesn't mean I'm bad. I'm going to choose to be happy today, or I'm sad. That's okay. Deal with it. It's all right. Let's move on. Tomorrow might be different. That again, it's just subtle, a little rhyme there, but they all reinforce this idea about allowing children to be, we said at the beginning, to understand their emotions, not just block them or pretend everything's good and happy, to understand it, and then also have strategies in place to deal with whatever emotions you actually really want to deal with on the day.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, that they know that if they are feeling sad, that's okay. People do feel sad, and it's not a bad thing, and it's not something that you have to squash away and hide away from. You know, that it's, you know, you can't spend every day of your life happy. You know, there are days where you're going to feel sad, or something impacts you, or, you know, and it's important that they know that that's okay. That's life is, and dealing with it is what is important. So, you know, I feel sad today, so what am I going to do about it? And, you know, and accepting that feeling of I'm sad today and just going with it. So just kind of riding the wave of that feeling of sadness, and just letting it be, and, you know, not worrying so much about that I'm sad, just going with it and feeling it. And, you know, by the end of the day, that wave might have passed and tomorrow was a new day. So yeah, I think that was really important to me, that they do know that's okay, and there's no shame in saying that you feel sad, or, you know, it's just the same kind of thing saying I feel happy today.
It's great what comes across as a book, and speaking to you now, it's a book not written from the hip. It's not just this is a story, I'll write this and I'll put some messages in. You had the training, you've had the research, you understand children, you understand yourself, you understand mental health issues, and like you said, researching the colours and everything. It's a carefully layered book that is proven to help. We've got about 6 minutes to go, Leanne. Okay. So, you've got to read us a little bit so we can get a feel for it and show some of the pictures.
Okay. Right. Okay. So chapter 1, Daniel and Darcy. Daniel sat with his family to have their tea. This was something they did every night. They would talk about their days and what they had done. Mum and Dad insisted on it. Time at the table to talk and be together is important, they would say. Daniel liked it. He loved being with his family, but this evening was different. Daniel shifted restlessly in his chair as he struggled to sit still. There was something on his mind, something that was unsettling him, and he couldn't focus properly on his meal. He pushed his food around his plate and Mum interrupted his thoughts. So, what have we done today, Mum asked while she passed the broccoli. Dad talked about how he had meetings, taken phone calls, and all the usual boring stuff parents seem to do when they go to work. Well, Amelia and I had a falling out today, and Miss Rogers had to speak to us, announced Darcy, Daniel's younger sister. Oh dear, now what was all that about? Dad asked with a roll of his eyes. Daniel listened as Darcy went on and on about how her and Amelia wanted to use a special paintbrush, and only one of them could get to use it. Amelia won, and this upset Darcy, really upset her. There's Daniel with his family. One of the lovely illustrations. Darcy continued with a story. Daniel began to feel strange. That he was there at the table and he could hear Darcy talking, but he didn't feel like he was processing what she had said. He heard bits of the story, but then his mind would wander. Daniel? Daniel? Daniel, are you okay? Mum's words reached him through the fog in his mind. Oh, yeah, sorry, Mum. What were you asking? Daniel asked, embarrassed. I said, how was your day at school? It was fine, Daniel replied in a low tone. Is everything okay, Daniel? It's just, you're incredibly quiet and you've hardly eaten anything, Mum asked with a loving touch of his arms. I just don't feel hungry, and I've got those bug things in my belly again. Daniel was sad and lowered his head. You mean butterflies? Dad asked with a smile. Yeah, butterflies, Daniel whispered. Daniel, everything is going to be okay. It's okay to be nervous. It's natural, Mum reassured him. It sure is. You'll be amazing, Darcy added with excitement and a mouthful of food. Remember, butterflies in your belly aren't always a bad thing. They can be signs of excitement too, Dad told him. Their words helped to settle Daniel's thoughts for a little while, but they didn't take away the fact that something unpleasant was looming.
Lovely, well read and well written. Yeah, the bugs, the butterflies, anxiety, just feelings of anxiety, and it's okay. You're nervous because you want to do a good job, and it's perfectly fine. Yeah, no, it's lovely. So I recommend. Somebody in the chat has already said that they use the book, they use the breathing exercises, and it works with their children. Talking to children, at the end, you've got a child acknowledgement list. What's that all about? Yeah.
I just thought that because my book was for children, it was to help children, I just kind of used social media and just asked parents if they would like their child acknowledged in my book, in the hope that a few would kind of put their names forward.
And buy the book. And buy the book. And buy the book, yeah. And that it was just kind of a celebration of children. And then I had over 1,000 names. Yeah, it's like a telephone book.
It really does. But it's something that I'm carrying on to book too, because local primary schools are interested in it, and children are just the amount of parents that contacted me to say like how happy the children were just to have the kids' names in the back of the book. So if that made a child smile, then it was worth it.
Yep, the child's in the book. Love it. I love your commitment to making a difference. The fact that you've made those brave career choices. Not only changing job, but then also going on to the next level with the book. A lot of people say they want to write a book but never get around to it, but you follow through, and that's great.
Thank you.
So thank you for that. How can people? So we've done the deal with the Roving Bookshop. They've got their own book festival website where you can get hold of the books and get them signed and everything. So that the link, I'll put the link on the screen, but also that link's on our website.
Yeah.
In terms of getting hold of you directly, Leanne, how can people do that?
You can contact me through my website at dreambelieveread.co.uk. You can contact me on email, dreambelieveread@hotmail.com, and on Twitter, Leanne Brown, DBR, Facebook, Dream Believe Read, and Instagram, Dream Believe Read.
Right. That's a Dream Believe Read. That says it all of it.
Yeah.
Great to speak to you, and good luck with all your future plans, and thank you for what you're doing. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, bye.
Bye.